And I told the media when I announced that I was going to be a candidate, wanted to be a candidate, that I was not running against any other candidate. That I was running for the seat to represent the people of District 64 in South Carolina. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in a little town of Winsboro. I was born in Rock Hill, but my mom was up there accidentally and had me. She was visiting relatives, went into labor, and I was born in Rock Hill, and then moved to Winsboro 4 days later, grew up in Winsboro. After graduating, as the last graduating class in Mount Zion, I went up to Spartanburg Methodist College, and then came back home, married my high school sweetheart, and went to work. I worked for West Baco Pulp and Paper Company. At that time, it was West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company. And I worked with them for a little over 10 years. I was transferred over to Lexington to go there for 2 weeks, and I was there for 43 years. And but during the time that I was in Lexington, I met and I just admired so much the late Congressman Floyd Spence. And by the way, whenever Floyd Spence ran as a Republican the first time, he lost. He ran for the U.S. House of Representatives against Albert Washington, and he lost. And then he ran for the state Senate as a Republican, and he won. And he was the first Republican to win since Reconstruction in Lexington County. But then after Floyd won, and I hope we'll see the same thing here in Clarendon County, once we win this special election, I hope that we'll see other people come out and begin to run as Republicans, and Republicans will take control of these two counties. And if we do that, I think we'll see prosperity in the two counties. But then, Floyd Spence, after he got elected to Congress, and I worked on his campaign to get him elected, he asked me to come to work with him and to manage his congressional office. Well, I first went up to Washington, but then shortly after going there, his wife Lou, and she was a great politician, I'm telling you. I think she got him elected first. She had a cerebral hemorrhage and lay in a coma for 9 months. And I was back and forth, and then shortly after that, about a year or so later, my wife got sick, and I also had a special needs child, and I just needed to spend more time in South Carolina, and Floyd was receptive to that. And I stayed a lot in South Carolina, but a lot of time in Washington too. And after 15 years, I left and went into the private sector, and did various things, including owning an automobile dealership one time until Hurricane Hugo wanted it more than I did. And so he came along and kind of took that away from me, and sold that to my partner, and then went back into governmental relations. And I was asked by former Governor Beasley if I would go to the State Treasurer's office and help, at that time, State Treasurer Richard Ekstrom with his legislative agenda. And I did so for that year, and then he was not reelected, and Grady Patterson, the Democrat, came back. And so in the position that I was in, you normally leave with your officer. And so I was preparing to leave the day that Grady Patterson came in office, and he said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Mr. Patterson, I'm a Republican, and I guess I'll be leaving your office, you know." He said, "I need somebody to do my legislative work, and I want you to do it." And so I worked with him for 8 years. But I met this young lady, and her dad was the late Hoyt Kirvin. Some of y'all may have known him. I met Ann Kirvin one time at a Christmas party that my wife and I were attending. And when we went into the Christmas party, Ann, y'all may know as Billy Ann, I know her as Ann, but she came over and she wanted to help my wife, assist my wife while I mingle around and talk to people. And that was great with me, you know, and my wife enjoyed that too. And then I never did see Ann anymore for a couple of weeks or so, and a friend of mine called me and said that if I remembered Ann Kirby. And I said, "You know, I do and I don't." And she said, "You know what, you kind of took care of your wife." And I said, "Yes, I remember that." And Ann said, "Well, she wants to call you and talk with you about your wife's condition because she thinks she has a friend that has a very similar condition. Well, my wife had a disease called dermatomyositis that went into, later on had scleroderma, and then then the final stages was cancer. And she battled it for 25 years and had 127 operations. And then shortly after my wife died, I lost my only daughter, my handicapped child. But in between my wife and my daughter, Ann called me one night, and she said, you know, what are you doing? And I said, I'm actually sitting in a chair in the great room, reading my Bible and looking at four walls. And so she asked me if I'd like to go to an event with her in Manning, which was a Taste of Clarendon. Some of y'all may have been to that. And I said, yes, I probably would, but I don't know. And so she said, well, you know, ask your siblings and ask your children to make sure that would be all right. Well, their agreement was, their agreement with that, and the rest was history, you know. But anyway, Ann and I have been married for a little over 5 years. And after we got married, she asked that I consider retirement and move to Clarendon County, Rhode Island. I didn't realize I was moving away from civilization. But it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. You can go to the limits and see it, you know. But anyway, I enjoy the quiet life of Rhode Island and Clarendon County. But I do miss Columbia. And